So this is kind of a follow-up from the first video. I got the car back together, injectors are all back in, put the computer in here. I want to give a shout out to this place. It's called Your Parts Source. They're over in Swansea, Illinois. I dropped it off this morning and they called me with probably less than 3 hours later and got it done. And they found defective ejector and turbo control chip, which is what we expected that they would find. So yeah, it's all back together. All I'm gonna do now is put the Autel back on it, take it for a drive, make sure it doesn't set any misfires in any of the cylinders, and it runs fine. And it has so much fuel dumped through the exhaust and through the cylinders, it's probably gonna do it good to take it for a little bit of a drive and kind of clean all that out, all that extra gas that's been dumped down there. Give the catalytic converter a little bit of a break. So that's my next step. We're just going to hook the Autel up, take it for a spin, and verify the repair. Alright, so I got the cover back on. I started it up. Actually, I can just tell by looking at it, it's running a lot better. It's not shaking at all. Like I said, it was misfiring before with the injectors, and it was real slight, but there was definitely a little bit of a shake to the engine. You can see here, real smooth and clean. So I'm going to boot the Autel up. We'll take it for a spin and we'll check, see what it's doing. So we're just going to boot the Autel up and what is this doing? We're mainly going to be looking for cylinder misfires and look at the fuel trims and see what those are reading. I can tell you right now, we had stability control. Everything's been wiped out, of course, because I disconnected the battery to put the computer in. So there's not going to be any codes in it, obviously. But what we'll do is we'll get on the live data. See, we still got some of all these other fault codes. What we'll do is we'll get on the live data and looks like my lug nuts are here for the Camaro, maybe. Nice ladies, bring it to the door. Anyway, we will look at live data and we'll watch the fuel trims and the cylinder misfire counters, and we should hopefully won't see any misfires at all. The other day when I drove it, it was counting them up within like the first 5 minutes. It started counting them up, and like I said, you could barely feel it. It wasn't real noticeable at all. It's taking a while to go through this. Of course, we still have all the control body control module faults. Things like right door module, left door module. None of the windows work or anything on it, so it's got a lot of that stuff stored. So we'll just look at really want to look at short-term fuel. It's been idling here for a few minutes. Misfire 1, 2, 3, 3 and 4. So anyway, I'll pull those out that we want to look at, and then we'll take it for a spin and see if anything pops up. So you can see here, short term looks pretty good. Obviously, it's been idle a few minutes, but so far it looks pretty good. So we'll just take it out here now and watch those misfire counters and see what happens with all those. Alright, so you can see here it is counting up on the misfires a little bit. The short-term fuel trim looks great. So I think the fuel injector problem is obviously fixed, but we are getting a little bit of a count up on the misfires. And like I said, I don't know the history of this car. It's the first time I worked on this car, so I haven't pulled the spark plugs out or anything like that. I may have just kind of assumed automatically that the misfires were from the fuel injectors, but it looks like I might have been wrong on that. It might need some kind of ignition tune-up or something. So anyway, I'm going to go back to the shop and pull the plugs on it and see what they look like. Like I said, it's got 265,000 miles. It's a turbo engine, and I don't know when the last time anything's been changed on it. I mean, you can see there, I've been driving probably about 10 or 15 minutes, and it's only got, a few misfires in each cylinder. You can't even feel it. So it's very slight. My guess is it's probably got something to do, maybe the spark plugs are wore out or something. So as far as the smoking and the running rough, all that's gone. It's running real good. So I think we took care of the fuel injector problem. So anyway, we're going to go back to the shop and pull that cover off, pull those plugs out and take a look at them and see if we can get the misfire counter to stop counting up. So far, no check engine light or anything. So I think this one's almost on the home stretch. I would definitely want to get the misfires counter to stop going up before I give it back. So yeah, so that's going to be my next step. Is I'll go back and pull that plug or cover and pull those plugs out and take a look at them. Take a look at the boots. Make sure there's nothing weird going on there. Like I said, it's not a huge. You can't even feel it on the engine itself. So it's very, very slight, whatever it is, and it's probably not a big deal. But we'll investigate a little bit farther on this. So short-term fuel looks really good still, and the counters are coming up on it a little bit. One thing you got to remember too, when those fuel injectors are dumping gas into the cylinders, it's filling that cylinder up with fuel, and then that plug is going to get fouled. So those plugs probably need to be changed regardless. I went ahead and stopped by O'Reilly's, picked some up because this has been going on, I guess, for about a week or two with it. Well, it was running rich. You could smell it running rich just when I drove it, when it was running okay, when the computer wasn't acting up. But she was saying that it was smoking when they were starting up and stuff, and the reason why it's smoking because those injectors were coming on and just dumping fuel in there before the engine was fired. So regardless, the plugs need to be changed. I was thinking about it when I was driving here and thought, man, instead of going home and pulling the plugs, we'll just go by O'Reilly's and get some plugs and then change them out. I'm pretty confident that's what it's going to be. Still no check engine light yet. Fuel trims are basically perfect. You can see, still almost perfect. So, I think, like I said, we'll put some plugs in it and then we'll go for another ride and see what happens. But I'm pretty confident that's what the issue is with that, is those plugs are probably, my guess is they're going to be pretty black when we pull them out of there. But anyway, we'll get back to the shop, pull the cover off, take a look at them. So I pulled this cover off. This car actually has all new coil packs on it. And there's the plugs there. There's, some fouling around the bottom of the plugs. They're not really in that bad of shape. They probably clean up on their own if you drove it enough. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw in the new ones anyway. But yeah, this actually has all new coil packs on it. So, I'm going to finish putting the plugs in and then we'll take it for another ride. Alright, so I took it off for about 10 or 15 minutes and we picked up 3 misfires on cylinder number 3 and none on the rest, which 3 was the one that was getting the most misfires before this. So I don't know. What I might do is give it back to the customer and let her drive it a week or two, and then recheck it and see what it comes up with. like I said, this thing was dumping fuel for a few weeks there, so I'm not sure how much that's related to, if that be related to these misfire. You can't feel it at all when you drive it. It's possible it has a fuel injector, maybe causing a slight misfire. But I think right now what I'm going to do is drive a little bit more, and then go ahead and, if these don't go up any more than this, go ahead and give it back to her and just have it, keep an eye on it and see, maybe recheck the counters in about a week or two and see what they read, and see, because the check engine light hasn't came on, which, I mean, looks like it's got to go 255 misfires before it'll trip the check engine light. So, and it was tripping the check engine light before we fixed the computer almost immediately. So, within a few minutes of driving it. So we still don't have we're still not picking up any codes. I've drove it now, probably 15 miles or so. And you can see here the engine control module, there's still no codes in there. So the main problem that we had is definitely fixed. And I got a feeling that this misfire may have been in this car a while, because it had all new coil packs and newer plugs in it. So this might be something they've been chasing for a while. And actually, the guys that rebuilt the computer really wanted me to change all 4 fuel injectors on it, and because they believe that normally when these computers go out on these Saabs, the fuel injector is what causes the computer to eventually go out. So I think my thought right now is, like I said, give it back to her and let her drive it for a while, and then recheck it and see if the check engine light comes back on. And if it does, then we'll maybe go after those fuel injectors and test those. Maybe pull them out of the cylinders, or pull them out of the fuel rail and see how they're spraying, and do a little test, because the continuity in all of them all check out good. So it's possible maybe the spray pattern is bad on it, or some kind of issue like that. I don't believe it's in the ignition, this misfire, just because you can't feel it at all, and someone replaced everything on it. So and they need their car back anyway. She wanted, this is one of the cars they rely on. So I don't think it's going to hurt anything letting her drive it a little bit and see, and like I said, and see if these counters go up anymore. Like I said, it's got 3, drove it about 10 miles, and it's got 3 misfires on cylinder 3. So yeah, that's where we're at on this. I think I'm pretty much going to close this out. If this doesn't clear up, then I'll make another video on tracking it down and possibly testing the fuel injectors and all that. But yeah, it's got all new ignition stuff. I don't think it has an intake leak or anything like that. The short-term yeah, you can see here the short-term fuel trim is excellent. So the computer's definitely doing its job now as far as controlling. There's not that gas smell anymore. It's not smoking. So we definitely got that all licked. What we'll do now, like I said, is just give it back to her and see what happens. So that's changing the ECM on a 2005 Saab 9.3 with the 2.0 turbo. It's a pretty common failure on these with the chugging and all that. I want to give a shout out to that place, Auto Parts Source in Swansea, Illinois. Those guys are out. They just started that business. It's kind of, they don't even have their sign up on their building yet. It actually says karate. It's like a karate. It was an old karate studio or something like that. So they do mostly online. And when I was searching for an ECU for this car, they popped up and they said, you send your computer to them and they repair it and they send it back out, and they have simulators there. Talked to the guy for a little bit today. And they actually have car simulators there, and they specialize in these kind of oddball cars, or European cars like the Mercedes and the Saabs and all that, and they can actually, test the computers right there, tell you what chips are bad, and replace those chips. And it's cheaper than if you go out and buy a new ECU reprogrammed, you're talking, that's some money. So these guys come in and they repair that computer. They leave all your information on there as far as your VIN and your key codes and all that. And so they repair it, and then you can just pop it back in, and there's no reprogramming or anything necessary. And, I dropped it off this morning. I told him I'd pick it up tomorrow. Guy called me about 2.5, 3 hours later and said that the computer's ready. You had a bad fuel injector driver and a bad turbo driver. We replaced those. It's ready to go. And I was kind of blown away by it because, you'd expect to have to wait longer than that for it. And the other thing, too, like, if we would have had to order this computer, it would have been down for 2 or 3 days. We had to reprogram, we get it in. And so anyway, I'm going to definitely use those guys again, because they don't just do Saab, which I don't work on very many Saabs. I know I've said it before, but they work on other European cars and do computers and stuff. So I'll definitely reuse those guys again. They're not too far, about 25 miles from the house, from St. Louis. But that beats, it beats sending it off and waiting for it and having to, have a car sit around that's disabled. So yeah, I'm definitely going to. They're mostly a online service, where I guess they ship out throughout the United States. But lucky for me, they're right here in St. Louis, and I was able to just go over there and get it repaired. It took a couple hours. So I got a big shout out to those guys. As far as getting your computers repaired, I would definitely recommend them, because their service is good, and this car is running very well. So anyway, we'll close this out, and if something else, if this car trips the check engine light because of the misfire counter or whatever, then we'll attack it later. I think it's safe to drive now, and those injectors are about $100 a piece. I looked it up last night, so that's something that we'd probably get online for this car, considering the miles it has and the age of it. So if this becomes a bigger issue, we'll order them online and get them in, and then change them out. But yep, that's it for this on 2005 Saab 9.3. Get this Hoopty back to our owner and get her back on the road.